All right, and we are live. So welcome to another episode of AI Marketing for Remodelers and Builders. Spencer, we have a very self-reflective episode today, talking all about is AI going to replace marketing agencies? And I didn't just put it in the title, people, all right? It is really our honest take. Spencer, I'd hope by now, this is episode 27, by the way. I would hope by now people do realize that we try to be as honest as possible, as transparent as possible. So don't go into this episode expecting us just to be like, nope, you still want to work with a marketing agency, like 1000%. We're going to give you our honest take about like where AI is going. But if you listen to this episode, you're going to really learn exactly, you're going to know exactly where AI can replace a marketing agency, where it can't, and what that means for your modeling or custom home business. Yeah, Spencer, I picked this topic because you probably won't be surprised. People in the marketing agency land is like, nope, you still need it 100%. They won't be replaced. And people that don't work with marketing agencies are like, nope, AI can automate everything. And as AI usually is, it's somewhere in the middle is the true answer.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the way with most technology too, right? Because that's kind of what we're talking about is just like expectations of AI and what it can do. But yeah, with many discussions in general, there's the far one side, the far the other side, and somewhere in the middle is usually a happy medium. Or it depends on your company and your context. You might actually want to live on one side or the other. So yeah, I'm excited to get into the conversation today.
Yeah, let's do it. So we're gonna start off with what AI can do right now, right? And so we've talked about it throughout these past 27 episodes, but it does a really good job of writing first drafts. I've been picked up a new slang here, Spencer. It's called preheating the oven. I'm using that a lot.
Oh, nice.
So
I
it's
like
really
it.
good at writing those first drafts of copy, emails, blogs. Really good at like research. So like I always want to check its sources and its numbers, but it preheats the oven for me for research. There's no reason why you should be raw dog in research now. It takes so much time. Have AI help you pull sources, and at the worst, it'll help you find good sources or bad sources to avoid, which is a much better starting point. It's really good at that. It's good at generating content at scale. So you think about social content, blog content, all those things that we talked about, really helping you go from like zero to something very quickly. And the one that we always talk about, data analysis, really good at summarizing data, flagging trends, really asking you deeper questions, and then building basic like automations and workflows. Obviously, that one sort of depends on like your technical ability as well. People are doing some crazy stuff with agents and all of that. But I'd say for the average AI user and like, average time to set it up, for the average, remodeling custom home business, probably like basic automations, basic workflows. So it's pretty good at that. So I will say this, right? Yes, AI can replace a marketing agency if your marketing agency is on autopilot. If they're just producing like, and we talked about this a couple of times, Spencer, we had a client come in that had an agency writing them 4 blogs a day. Very obviously
Crazy.
ChatGPT, less than 500 words. If you hire an agency like that to just produce content for you at mass, kind of throw you like random reports here and there, then yeah, for sure, AI is 1000% going to replace agencies like that.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. One thing that this made me think of is, you go, okay, so like blogs or something, producing content. That's something we just talked about the last episode or two, and you can get a really solid first draft or anything like that. But even still, it is kind of interesting because you kind of take that skill in isolation. You go, okay, let's write a blog post, and all of us can go to ChatGPT and get that, at least to your point, preheated. Then it's that last mile where a lot of the difference gets made. But even if you're like, cool, AI can do that now, and it like pushes out a blog that's perfect, you still have to go prompt it, get it there, get the post, go onto your website, add it, structure it with the headings, add the internal links, like there's still manual steps. And so I think that is one area where like you just have to decide for your company, like, are we trying to do marketing in-house? If so, what parts of marketing are we doing in-house? Or do we want to outsource some of it, all of it, none of it? And those questions I think become a little bit more inherent to just the skills and the bandwidth that you have on your existing team. And then maybe like a long-term goal of, Um, what are we trying to do with our company over the next 3 to 5 years? If do we want marketing as like a core competency, or do we want something else as a core competency? Where are we going to focus? Because it's always trade offs. I don't know. That's where my head starts to go. It's just it's always contextual, right? It always depends on the person, the company, all of those types of things.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's funny you say that because we're going to mention some of those points when we get into what AI can't do. But yeah, 1000%. It obviously like very contextual. But it's something else I've been thinking about too, because we talk about the 80/20 rule. It almost applies to anything, but it's just, arbitrary numbers here. But yeah, I mean, now that you talk about how like, yeah, anybody can go to ChatGPT and generate a blog post and all that, and then you can get 80% of the way there, right? Pretty much almost anybody can go in, not know anything about ChatGPT, and at the end of an hour, they can have a blog post ready to copy and paste on the site, right? But that extra 20%, like that's really like where people are standing out now, right? Because now everybody can get content on the site. And so yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot too, is like the amount of time spent on that 20% and that 20%, how much of a difference does that make? And now that everybody can get 80%, that 20%, maybe it's even, you could argue, maybe becoming like a larger percentage of the pie. Yeah, it's making me think about things like that too. So very
Well,
interesting
it's
you brought that up.
funny. Yeah, to build on that point, I think part of what you're getting at too is just the way capitalism works, which is, like cool, if everyone has that ability to go from 0 to 80%, yeah, one, the last 20% becomes like the real differentiator, right? But also, if everyone can go from 0 to 80% in 10 minutes, now we're also talking about like a quantity thing. So then it's like, well, if all of your competitors can go 0 to 80% in 10 minutes, then how are you going to beat them? And so it's almost like it just ups the playing field, and then it's level again, and then you're looking for like that little bit of a difference of like where are you going to get that extra performance from. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like because of cars and phones and all of the tech we have, it's not like we're all working less. Like, you just because you have the technology, you're like, how much more can we achieve in the same time frame? And so, I don't know, it's just a funny thing about how humans are wired, I think.
It is, yeah. It's funny you brought that up. It's a good segue to like into the next like what AI can't do. But I follow and I've talked to you about him a couple times. But for the listeners and the watchers out there, Eric Sue, he's one of my favorite AI people to follow. He owns a marketing agency that works with very large brands. You think like Amazon, companies like that. And he always talks about how this like connotation with AI of like how it's like, oh, it's gonna cut down on all this time and do this. He's like, no, no, no. Like honestly, a lot of people that I know and people at my company and me are working more than we ever have. But now we just actually have the time to do the stuff that we really want. We've cut out a lot of the legwork and a lot of those like repetitive tasks. And now, yeah, we're working more, but that's just like part of like what comes with it. So yeah, I think that's a good point. I don't know. That made me think. I was like, yeah, like that's like almost everybody that talks. So the reason I bring that up is because when you talked about how like when everybody can get this 80%, the answer years ago was like just do more. Like that's almost like what every business owner thinks first. It's just like let's just do more of that, right? It's like all our competitors are writing like this many blogs, this many content. Like we'll just do more of that.
Yeah, for a day,
Now that's
right?
changed. Yeah. Now that's changed, right? Because anybody can just do more. It's very easy to do more. It's very easy to crank volume. So now you got to think about what's that. That's when you start going more into that quality or other levers, right?
Yeah, yeah. How do you do better with and that's that kind of 20% time that we keep referencing back to and that you talked about, Kai, which is like, cool. I don't now have to spend 2 hours on that first 80%. I'm just gonna reallocate that into the 20%. And so I think in general, like we kind of mentioned at the top of the episode, the answer's in the middle. If a certain task used to take you 2 hours, there's a good chance that you can actually do that same task with better quality and for less time, but it might not be like, oh, now this only took me 10 minutes. It might be like this took me like 30 to 60 minutes instead of 2 hours, but it's also better. And so I think that's kind of the exciting part is if you can add a little bit of more, but with the better component too.
So Spencer, AI, like what is there that AI can't do when it comes to replacing a marketing agency, right? And so a couple of things that I brought up here. is really that strategy component to it. And everybody's gonna be like, well, this guy's the consultant. He just doesn't want AI to take his job. Now, I'm being honest, guys, all right? Like if it really could generate really good strategy, that would be great. That would be insane. There'd be a lot of ways to leverage that. There's still a lot of ways that you have to put in your own knowledge and you got to kind of guide it, but it's really good once you give it that information. So you think about like market insights, right? Yes, AI can do research for you and do all of that, but you have to know what to ask for. You have to know what to look for. Really good example here is across the country, we've been hearing that like custom homes have been down. It's been hard to get custom homes, probably the past year and a half, almost 2 years at this point. The market hasn't been great. And on the flip side, additions and in some regions basements, it's in additions and basements have been really hot the past year and a half, and a lot of that comes from, when you think about it, it makes sense, right? A lot of those good custom home prospects who are like, this is like not really worth it right now, are now becoming, those high end larger scale basement and addition prospects because they're staying in their home. This is a really good chance. I'm doing research with AI is I'm gonna say, hey, here's what I'm hearing across my clients. Here's a couple client examples. Can you find information to either back this up or counter this claim and like explain that to me? So like if I didn't know to look for that or to ask for that, it might have gone too broad, right? It might have not looked at like you might have not looked at it with like that context of like looking at it like let's look at additions and basements recently and compare to custom homes. So like that's one example. I think also it can it can really just be wrong, just like a human can, right? I can be wrong. Everybody can be wrong. And so there's definitely like, there's no like, when AI does this, it's like that is the end all be all. There are times when I disagree and I'm like, no, this isn't right. Here's why. Here's my own data. Or like, let's look at it a different way. And if you use AI and you probably run into this, Spencer, it likes to agree with you. So it likes to agree with you. It can be very easily swayed. So you definitely need a human in the loop there when you're talking strategy and big decisions. You always want to be that person at the end of the day that's making that decision. I treat AI more as like an advisor where I'll take its information into consideration. It helps me get to decisions for sure. But I'm always the one there that's making the decision at the end of the day.
Yeah, and to your example about like custom homes being, demand being down and tougher to sell, and then, oh, it's basements, it's addition, these other things. AI isn't able to pull that because that's like current data, current like real-time local market data. AI is great at going backwards, right? And analyzing historical, analyzing, but it's not a forward-looking, thinking, projecting um, tool. And so I think, what I'm hearing from you there is, hey, this is like boots on the ground knowledge from a real remodeling company, a real custom building company. Um, and so that data is always going to give you like that edge um, to be able to build strategy, which I think is where we started this conversation, right? If you just said, I don't know, even going back to your original prompt, if you just say like, I'm a custom builder and I need more custom homes, you'd say, build me a marketing strategy on that. But if it's like, if you don't actually know what's going on in your market, the larger strategy is actually, what should I target right now if I need some projects and I'm a builder and I'm willing to do additions or basements while I can't sell any custom homes?
Yeah, 1,000%. And I'm glad you brought like that, like almost like field knowledge there too. And that's like where I think a lot of listeners and watchers can really get that information and really sharing like what you see. Because I think also at the end of the day, like strategy isn't a one size fits all thing, right? So like I make blueprints every day for clients. I'm working through blueprints. No two strategy plans are the same. Yes, we follow like our certain like pillars in our methodology, and there's definitely topics that work. But going to your prompt of like, hey, like build me like do research and build me a marketing strategy plan. At the end of the day, this is what I always say about like I think competitor analysis. They are a good audit, but almost very overrated, especially like when you're just getting started with your marketing plan. Because at the end of the day, you don't know what's working. They don't make that public, right? They could be writing all these blogs, and that might not be doing anything. Sure, it might be ranking for the keywords and things like that, and getting them traffic, but we don't know at the end of the day if it's getting them bottom line, ROI revenue. And so that's always like bringing in your own knowledge there and that context. And we go back to the previous episode of last week, we talked about bringing in your own experiences. That's when you're going to start getting more of like a unique strategy plan tailored to like your unique problems right now or goals that you have. Versus if you just let AI run on autopilot, or even, we give it to like a general marketing agency that ran it on autopilot, you can get a generic strategy that parts of it may work. It's not like a strategy is bad, but it's not tailored to you, and that's not what's working.
Yeah, yeah. I think, and I think that just goes back to kind of the original, premise is just like what can be replaced by AI, whether it's a marketing agency or just even you as the business owner, and trying to identify like what are those things that really you have the power, and if you do feed it with that power, then you can really get that accelerated output that you're looking for. And so being in tune with your market is probably understated today and right now. If you're sitting here listening to this, like you talking to real prospects, leads, understanding what's happening in your local environment, like that's really valuable, and you can use that in combination with AI to get the outcomes that you're looking for.
There's a reason why SaaS loves interviews like that. You probably have got a couple emails somewhere in your inbox there where they're offering you a gift card just to hop on a focus group or something. It's why it's so important. There's two other shorter ones here, and they go together, Spencer, and it's something you've already touched on. It's the execution standpoint, right? So when we go back to like what AI can't do as far as replacing a marketing agency, there's 1000% cool workflows and automations that you can set up where AI can do it end to end, right? Where you're talking to it and it deploys it. But you saw in our episode when we were connecting ChatGPT to all those tools, how many of them worked? Like almost none of them. And there are definitely connections that work, but what I'll say is it's unreliable. So AI can give you the output, but you still need to make those decisions. You still need to actually go in and like take the time to like put that on your website, structure it the way that you want. And while the argument can be that there's certain workflows and automation that you can create, a lot of those connectors right now can be pretty unreliable. And when you actually look at those connectors, there's a lot of limitations, right? So for example, HubSpot has a really cool connector with ChatGPT and Claude, but that's all one way right now. It can pull information from HubSpot, it can pull information from the CRM, but it can't put that information back, and it can't change that. It can't change things within HubSpot for you. So you may look at a connector and say, well, yeah, like if I want AI to run this, it has all these connectors and it can do all these things. When you read the connectors and what they can actually do, Spencer, you'd be very surprised at how limited a lot of them are for right now. Doesn't mean it's not going to improve, but very limited for right now.
Yeah, well, and even to just use an example, from Builder Funnel, you and I were talking about, because we've been working on our meta ads specifically. We've been working on a few things, but that one specifically, you just went and built this cool tool that we can use internally for Builder Funnel. It helps us like generate lots and lots of creative in the style that we wanted, but it allows us to test more and rapidly. And so, but then I'm starting to ask you questions like, okay, cool. That's like one piece of this workflow, because you always see these people like, oh, I built this crazy workflow or whatever. And it's like, well, it's not going to auto upload those ads to Meta. So it's like, well, somebody has to go do that. So it's like, even if you can use AI to create like, here's 100 different ads, let's go test them all. It's like, well, let's go create 100 ad sets in the Meta, environment. It's like, that's not automated. And then we ran into an issue with our pixel tracking. And so it's like, cool. Is a AI agent gonna go log in and figure out like why the pixel isn't firing? And I think we had to create a new one, and whatever you said were the final steps. But like that's where I've been trying to figure out like, man, I wish that we could replace more. And I think we're getting there. Like every week that goes by, like there's more automations and workflows and all of these things. But right now it feels like it's kind of like humans start, there's some like speed or automation in the middle, but maybe it gets stuck. Human has to like revise and continue it. Then you can maybe get a little more AI, and then like human finalize, polish, like full send, whatever the deliverable is. And so, yeah, when I think about that, like where agencies I think are still viable, and like at least viable in the way that they operate and look like today. Obviously, every industry will shift to kind of adapt, but it's like, what are all those human points? And then how are we getting the quality up higher? But even if you're a business owner, you're like, cool, this is great. Now I have all this time back. I don't need to hire an agency. Like that might be a model for you. And you might go, cool. Then you just need to know, okay, I'm the human to start the thing. AI is gonna help me with speed, but then I'm gonna have to, like, jump in again, and then I'll probably have to do the final, like, publishing or sending or whatever that last thing is, and so, if you are sitting there thinking like, "Great, I don't need a marketing agency," I would just say, be prepared that like you'll still need to be driving the ship, so to speak. But you can certainly do a lot more now. If you didn't used to know how to design or write or code, you can do that as a one person, owner or contributor at a company.
Listen, if Meta wants to release a AI agent that can fix pixels for us and troubleshoot Meta ads issues, like I think we would pay extra for that.
Yeah,
Honestly, it is
that'd be nice.
yeah, that's a really good example you brought up too, Spencer, because I didn't even think about that. Listeners, watchers out there, if you, I want you to troubleshoot something with AI next time, and I want you to see what pass. Sometimes it does well, but I was troubleshooting this pixel issue yesterday with Claude Code, and it was just making up stuff. And I asked it to search the web. This is somebody that uses AI all the time, and it was like, "Yep, like, oh yeah, you just want to go in your HubSpot settings and look at the privacy and consent, and then check off this tracking thing that's blocking it." And I'm like, that tab doesn't exist. Where'd you pull that from? Oh yeah, you're right. No, it doesn't exist. I misread that. My bad. So we ended up having one of our ads guys help me fix the pixels. I had to actually go to a human, but yes, the troubleshooting aspect, all of that. Yeah, and I think overall, like what you're really conveying here is it can make stuff for sure. And I think I even have this note somewhere in here, but when it breaks, yeah, like it might be able to fix it, but that's when it gets tough. Like when AI isn't, the answer for that, right? And you don't have an expert or somebody that's like well versed in meta pixels or some issue with your website, and it's on you to fix. Well, if you're just automating all of your marketing, you're gonna kind of be stuck, right? And it's like, cool, you automated all this stuff, but now you don't know how to fix it if it breaks, which is a huge issue.
Yeah, I don't know, just more globally, because I do want to make sure we are fulfilling our, promise of like the honest take on is AI, going to replace marketing agencies. Kind of when I zoom out and I think about, like what a marketing agency is, like we are a team of professionals that have very specific skill sets. And so, what you're hiring for is those skill sets that are going to get you to an outcome. And so, some of those skill sets have been compressed with AI into a way where if you could take somebody from 0 to 50 pretty fast, but then there's probably still that like getting from 50 to 100 or from 80 to 100, wherever it leaves off depending on the tool or the skill set. That's the gap. But I kind of feel like any businesses that were wanting to figure out how to do it themselves, like they were probably going to go down that path anyway. And so AI tools have probably allowed them to go down that path easier and faster, which is amazing. And the companies that were like, we want to partner with experts, we're probably going to do that anyway. And now they know that the experts are supercharged with AI tools. And so then that feels better to them. I just think about like, I could go and like for working in this industry, I'm like the least handy person, and I think about like I'll always just choose to hire someone to come to my house and fix stuff or work on my car. Like I couldn't fix my car at all. There's no way I could do that. And so I would just hire that. And so I don't know. At the end of the day, I kind of feel like it just comes down to your company and your DNA and what you're trying to build into the walls of that company. And you either are saying, I really want to hire someone to help, or I want to kind of build this into my, I don't know if that's too simplistic. Maybe you see it from a different lens, Kai, but it's almost like the people that were going to DIY their home, they were never going to hire the remodeler anyway. And the people that can't DIY, they're going to hire.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think obviously like it really does depend. I think there is an argument too that people that maybe would have gone to, a mechanic shop, for example, like you said, maybe they might use ChatGPT or Claude to fix like a small issue or something. I think one of the examples they even showed in their marketing was like somebody did their own oil change by just using ChatGPT, which apparently is pretty easy. I haven't done it before, but apparently if you look up a couple things, it's easier. But yeah, I do like that. I do think there's definitely majority. I think, yeah, if they were going to DIY it, this helps them get probably even farther than they were. And if they were going to hire a professional, they were going to do it anyway, right? And now it's just like those professionals are even better. Now you know a little bit more like what to look for because of these tools and which ones are legit and which ones are using the tools in the right way that makes sense for you.
Yeah. And maybe to what you're part of what you're getting at there too is somebody that maybe was going to hire an agency, they maybe can delay that a little bit longer or
Yeah,
experiment with
exactly.
AI first and say, yeah, like let me go down this path and make some progress. Yeah, that's probably happening. I would
Yeah,
agree.
funny enough, I do feel like sometimes we have, I feel like I definitely had more clients come in that have used AI more and more, but also definitely more clients that have tried things with AI, and that was almost the wake up call to them, where it was just like, okay, like I get this. Here's the limitations. Like I think now I know like what I want to do, and I think that's what we're seeing, right? I think like you use it, and then we go down those two paths that we talked about, right? It's like, oh, this is actually doable. I could set this up, or it's like, there's actually a lot more to this than I thought. It's not really the content's not coming out like how I want it. Now let me go reach out to somebody.
Yeah, it's almost like we're just in this middle ground between like what we want AI to be, which is like, cool, build me a marketing plan and just do it, and I don't have to worry about it. And that's like we're not there, but it's like if that would be really nice. And so when people start going down that path, they realize like, oh, I'm prompting a bunch, I'm spitting in a bunch of voice data, and then I'm like getting it back, and it's not quite there, and I'm working with it, and then yeah, oh, I can't get these tools connected or what, and so you start running into all of those, like you said, those issues, and it's kind of like, okay, yeah, there's still it's human plus AI. We're still very much in that that phase.
And I think honestly, I mean, I don't know. I said last year, I didn't think there'd be that many huge advances this year, and they've definitely proved me wrong on that. But part of me thinks that will always be like I think there's general consensus that there will always be a human like in the loop. Maybe where they enter in that loop or how big that loop is changes as these tools get better. But that's what it seems like is the general consensus, is that you got to be using these tools because it's just another tool and it's going to help and all of this. But even like the most AI forward people they're still preaching human in the loop. No, even like when they have like all these crazy automations and things. So it'll be interesting to see like how that evolves, and if it will be like truly, I think it's like AGI is what people are calling it. That's like when it hits like the truly autonomous self-learning state. So as we get better, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and it's kind of like just to flip it into another zone, like, as a remodeler, if you're sitting there and you get a homeowner and they come in and they're like, look, I had AI design all my floor plans and do my design for me. Like, why should I pay you for design? Um, you'll probably look at all that and go, well, it missed this and it missed this and it missed this. And so, um, yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the day when potentially, that it would be across industries where that kind of same analogy would apply, where you could just say, yeah, it's just done perfect how it should have been.
Not to get too stuck on this, but that just brought up. I just started a blueprint this week with a new client that came in, and they had a social post where they are encouraging people to use ChatGPT to
Because they know
design like their
it
idea.
won't go that well.
Yeah, yeah, they're encouraging them to design it, but they're like, that helps us a lot. It actually helps us go through faster. So I was going to talk to
Oh,
them
I
about that,
see.
but I
So
thought
just
that
from an
was
idea and like vision perspective,
yeah,
interesting.
they were
Yeah.
like, actually, before you come talk to us, you should have ChatGPT generate you a floor plan and generate this. And
Yeah.
like,
Use this
obviously,
prompt.
they fix
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that's actually the first. Usually I see the opposite. So it's like, here's why AI can't design your project. So even within the industry, right? Even within this niche, you're seeing different camps of people, it's always interesting picking their brains.
That's cool.
So, really here, so let's say like, cool like agency or even like marketing person you want to work with. Here's like what the best marketers are doing right now. Best agencies, they're really letting AI handle the volume, and that's like the preheating the oven, so like those first drafts, the reports, the research. But humans are handling that thinking, right? So the strategy, the positioning, the client insight, the human experience to it. And the big thing here, when you're vetting agencies and all of that, are you considering, is not only should the output be, this is, I'm gonna say this very broad because I don't want people to think that we can generate something for them in like 30 minutes, all right? But the output shouldn't just be like faster than if they were to not use these tools, but it should be better. And that's what separates them, Spencer, is there's agencies out there that are basically like, we're gonna crank volume. We're gonna get like 100x more clients than we could handle before without AI, and we're just gonna crank, right? But they're not having an output that's obviously better. And that's like the most important part. And I think our philosophy, because I would say Builder Funnel is, we use AI. We have an AI podcast. We talk about it. Clients talk about it. We definitely like use AI. Maybe like I would say like AI first. But we've always been, let's make it better, then let's optimize. That's how we've always thought of it. So that's the most important thing. It doesn't really, as long as it's faster and better is what you're going for. As far as people want to make it faster first, then better, or better than faster, that's up to you.
Yeah, and I think about that example of the client you referenced that they were working with someone else that was cranking out the 4 posts a day. And I think you just have to go back to the the outcome. And the outcome you want is leads and customers. And so it's the agency's job, the marketer's job, the whoever, is working that system to make sure you're getting the outcome. And it was the same way with content marketing in Google, I would say in the early 2010s and that where it was like, man, blogging was just like in its heyday. And it was just like, we wrote for one client, I think we were writing 20 blogs a month. So it wasn't one a day, it wasn't 4 a day for sure. But we were actually writing them. It was a big retainer, I remember at the time. And it made a big difference. But then more didn't equal better after a while. It was like better equaled better. And so then you'd see these posts that were like 2,000 words long, 5,000 words long. You'd saw, like, I've seen people that would write, 10,000 word blog posts and they became these like pillar pages with everything. And then that was working. And so, like, today, what's working is, to your point, it's not just cranking out more because there's AI. And it's like, yeah, all these platforms know you can crank out more. And so they're looking for very specific things. And so it's, to your point, it's always about what works, which is in the better category, which is how do we use these tools to make it better so that it works, so that we get the leads and we get the revenue that we're actually chasing. Because we're definitely not chasing faster blogs. Like, that's not what we want. Is like, cool, now I can write blogs. It's like, no, I actually want more leads.
Yeah, if you're on Twitter at all and you're like in like the AI space, I mean there, and I'll say like these guys that I followed, like they're like they mean good. Like one of my favorite guys that I follow, he's like, "Yep, I cranked out like 60 landing pages yesterday and 1,500 ad variations." And I'm just like, "Why?
Yeah.
Why? Like
Are you
there's
using them all?
no like, are
Like,
you using them all? Like what? Like I could go into Claude Code and have it do that, and I could go start another task 1,000%. If we're talking about how much content and things that we could do, yeah, sure. But it's like everybody in the comments like, you are awesome. This is cool. How are you even implementing 60 different landing page variations?
yeah.
Like, so I don't know. I think really to wrap here as far as like the top things if you're a remodeler or builder out there, right? If you want to work with a marketing agency, really like these are like the core questions that like I would think about and ask, right? So one, like, do they use AI? I mean, this is personal opinion here. I think an agency that says they don't use AI is like full of it. And honestly, if they don't, I don't get that. It is another tool. There's not like I don't really see the appeal. We talked about like a human first episode a while ago when like some companies are going like human only, human first. There's so much good that these tools can do. So I think like them saying that they don't use AI, that's a little bit of a flag to me. And then there from that, let's say they do use AI, how are they using it? Right. So I think you really want to get into that. You don't want to work with somebody that's going to crank out, 10 blogs for you a day, right? That's not going to really get you results. Or they're just going to have things on autopilot. They're just trying to automate every single thing, which automations aren't bad, but how are they automating it? Where are you going to be talking to them, getting their insights? And then probably the most important, question to ask, Spencer, is how do they know your industry? And again, my personal opinion here, as people start working with agencies, we're gonna really shift from like these like big generalist agencies that are just working with everybody, because those are the ones that are honestly doing your stuff on autopilot because they don't know your industry. I think that's was like what that client that had the 4 blogs a day. I think they were literally just having ChatGPT pick the topics and write them. But how well do they know your industry? And by them knowing your industry like the back of their hand, that's when you're going to start getting better human in the loop insights that we talked about. So like that strategy, that positioning, leveraging your client insights, leveraging their personal experiences, how well they know the market. The better they know your industry, the better that they can utilize AI and all these tools that we just talked.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are good questions to ask, good things to think about. Um and the first point you made was kind of interesting to me because it's like if you're asking an agency if they're using AI, if they say no, you think they're full of it, which is probably highly likely. Like you got to be using ChatGPT for just like one thing at least, somewhere. But even if that's like a pillar of their like, oh, cool, we're not using AI, that's how we're different. Just when you look at a capitalist environment, like it's basically saying like, cool, we're gonna race, 100 miles, and I know there's cars, but like we don't use cars because horses like ran out of like a job, and we don't like that. And I don't know, it feels like cool. We have these tools that could create a better outcome for a client, but we're not going to use them. And so I don't think that pillar will stand. And I think every industry is going to have AI touching parts or eventually all of the different components in some way. And so yeah, I don't know. That's kind of yeah. Everyone can make their own business decision, but yeah, I don't think that
Yeah.
that pillar holds up for people that are doing that.
I just think about the people that are still tracking all their leads by pen and paper. They don't believe in a website. Same camp, right? Do what you want to do at the end of the day, but these are tools, right? There's definitely bad things that you can do with the tools. There's definitely people taking advantage of the tools, but the tool is just a tool. Like there's so much good. And like you said, there's so much more that you can get out of it results wise, that will help, rather than you not using it. But Spencer, something I want to start doing just to make sure, because I know we go on our tangents. I want to read back what our promises on the episode, just to make sure we answered every single question that we said. So, listeners and watchers out there, to remind you, we said if you listen to this episode, you're going to know exactly where AI can replace a marketing agency, where it can't, and what it means for your remodeling and custom home business right now. So we talked about as far as like where it can replace, we talked about some of those like first drafts. We talked about it can replace those like autopilot agencies, those ones just cranking out volumes of content for you. If you have an agency like that, you could probably do better yourself if it's low quality. And then at least you're saving the money there and just doing it yourself and learning. And honestly, you injecting your own personal experiences into it is going to make it even better. As far as what it can't replace, the big pillar that we stayed on, Spencer, was the strategy and the insights. And if you use AI, you will see that it will always just try to agree with you, or it has very generic insights. So it needs your thought process there. And then the wrap for the promise here, as far as what that means for your business. Listen, you can do what you want. You don't have to work with an agency if you don't want to. You can if you want to, but what you should always think about is, one, if you're going to work with an agency, how do they use AI? Do they use AI at all? And how much do they know the industry? And that can apply to an agency or a marketer that you're going to hire that's going to use AI. But I think you can use those questions and pillars, really just to help with like your marketing efforts in general.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, and I think just to like state it clearly, um, like I think what AI is replacing in agencies right now is um first draft, whatever percentage, we've used the 80, the 50, whatever. There's some percentage of, and I think it's like a lot of writing, a lot of like design or like creative pieces, whether that's like PDF, cut sheets, social posts, like it's starting to replace some like coding and stuff like that. But again, I would say it's like the part it's replacing is like the 0 to X, whatever X is, 30, 50, 80%. And then it's that last mile that you as the company needs to take it to the finish line, or an agency or whatever. But yeah, that part is being um, compressed, I guess, is kind of the word that I like, because that first part you can preheat fast. It's like our oven has a rapid preheat. That's kind of what it's like.
Rapid preheat. I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. We might add on to that. So Spencer, it's our favorite section of the pod. It's PWOW. If you know, you know. Our parting words of wisdom. If there is one thing that people should remember from this episode, what should it be?
Yeah, I think for me it's just deciding it, I don't know. I think it's just deciding, even just if it's right now for like the next year or two, hey, we really want to try to build marketing into the DNA of our company. And so we're going to do that, and we're going to learn these AI tools, and I'm going to hire a marketer in house, and I'm going to go down that path. Or no, I think I'm going to outsource marketing, and I'm going to focus my efforts on other areas of the business that need attention. And it doesn't have to be a permanent decision, but I kind of feel like just zooming out and making that call for yourself so that you kind of know, okay, this is the path I'm on, and I'm intentionally deciding, and I can intentionally decide, later down the road if things in my business change. But I think sometimes we just don't decide, and so you're kind of like, well, maybe I'll talk to a few agencies, but then, oh, I saw this cool AI automation thing, so maybe I actually don't need the agency, so I'll just do that. And then I feel like you just end up waffling. So I don't say, just, yeah, decide a path. What's your
I like
PWOW
that.
guy?
I like that. I was thinking about PWOW. Honestly, I really liked when we talked about knowing the industry and that one example we gave with the research. Um, I would say if you only had to do like one skill that we talked about today, I think just the ability to like know your market, kind of validate like what you're saying and have AI pull the data points, that will help you be a better decision maker, strategy, positioning, all of that within like marketing, even sales, it could probably help too. Um, and then when you have that knowledge, I think that's a little bit easier to instill in somebody, that like, okay, like let's say like you want to do it yourself, you have that knowledge, great. Let's say you want to bring in somebody to help with marketing, you can sort of help them with that, right? And then they can help you with the execution, which we talked about as like one of the things that AI really, depending on how crazy your workflows are, is not going to replace all that. Or let's say you want to work with an agency, you have that knowledge and you can sort of get a feel for like where their knowledge is at, right? Do they really know your industry, right? Probably most agencies you're going to talk to use AI in some way, but that third question, do they really know your industry? You might not know that unless you know your industry. So I would say that that's like one of the core things. If you know that, you can almost go any direction. Like Spencer said, where you make a decision, no matter what decision you make, when you have that there and you know how to get those market insights, I think that will be a huge key unlock, and you can pick any and be pretty successful.
Yeah, I feel like that's very in line with the shift that was made in content marketing a while ago, which is context is king instead of content. And with AI, context really is king, to your point.
Awesome. Well, that has been this episode of AI Marketing for Remodelers and Builders. As always, feel free to email me your feedback. I would actually really like some feedback for this episode. I thought this episode, we try to stay as unbiased as possible, but obviously we get it. We're a marketing agency, so I want to hear your feedback. What are your thoughts? So feel free to email me at kb as in boy iami at builderfunnel.com. Reminder, that is kbiami at builderfunnel.com. And that's going to be your prompt, right? Just give me your feedback of this episode, and I want to hear what you think. Do you really think AI can replace marketing agencies? Yes or no? But we will see y'all on the next episode.